Ah,
Here I
there you
am.
are.
Yeah,
How are you? Good to see you.
doing
Thank you for taking
excellent.
some time this morning to join us. Holy hell, you've been at this since the 70s, John.
Too long, 50 years of rock and roll.
That's pretty incredible. I think that you formed the band Thor the year that I was born in 1973. And
That's right. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, for to start things, I'm about the glory years of those years. Like, what stands out as like some of the best memories of what you did? And like, where labels were throwing around a ton of money, there was no internet. Of course, it was completely different than what it is today.
Yes, we were fat cats back in the 70s,
Yeah.
where artists and the labels were making big dough. When we signed with the record company RCA back in the 70s, we got a pretty big advance and everyone did well. But some highlights for me, and there's been so many, there's been many lows, of course, as well, but a
Yeah.
lot of highlights. And, one is being on the Merv Griffin show, and that was in 1976, and there were uh, literally millions of people viewing the show back then, and I was live from Caesar's Palace. It was a big break for me because that got me notoriety and offers for record deals and movies and all that kind of stuff.
One
So that was a
show,
big
isn't that
highlight.
incredible? Right? Like one show just kind of blows it up.
Yes, yes, big break for me. And then, of course, in England, playing the marquee and having Jimmy Page come to see the show in 1984. Just that also gave me a big break over in England. Where we had some number one rock hits with Thunder and the Tundra and Let the Blood Run Red, Anger, some of the favorites, right?
What a cool story to share, John. And of course Thor. Like immediately you think of Marvel and Thor and everything. Was there pushback from Marvel Comics with you naming the band Thor?
Well, it's pretty tough to sort of take hold and take full rights on a Norse legend like Hercules. How many Hercules movies have you seen, right?
True enough.
Well, Thor, unless you put a tag on it. So I was always Thor the Rock Warrior. But in the beginning, um, I was Mikl Body Rock. And I would be Thor within the show. And when we were in Vancouver, we played the Commodore Ballroom, and this goes back to 1974, and Rob Geldof was in the audience, and at that time he came over here as a student and wrote for Georgia Strait. So he gave us a rave review. We were the kings of glitter rock and muscle rock. So that was another highlight. And from then on, we just kept developing the Thor concept, and it just got So we already had sort of the the common law rights, as you say, and then I trademarked the name Thor the Rock Warrior, Thor the Metal Avenger, and actually one time Marvel did give me a tough time about 15 years ago because we were starting to with the movie I Am Thor came out, and anyhow we basically said we could both operate in the same universe simultaneously. So we made an agreement, and here we are. But to trademark that name, I had to go through the Queen, because there's a missile called Thor. So we had to my trademark agent, and really had to work hard to get the name slammed through, basically.
Wow. So are you a comic book guy?
Yes, very much. I mean, Superman, when I was a kid, I was a big Superman fan. Actually, so much so that when I was in grade four, I wore a Superman costume underneath my clothes and would
Nice.
change to Superman at recess. and then I actually jumped off the first story of the school out of the window and got a concussion. Woke up in the hospital. Yeah, but that was far more serious. And a comic book geek before the comic book geeks. I mean, I was the geek of all geeks. So I'm really excited about the Superman movie coming out this year.
Yeah, hell yeah. What's your favorite superhero movie then?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I really enjoyed The Flash. You
Yeah.
know, it got panned, but Flash was always my favorite character, and I really love the scene in there where he goes through this time continuum or whatever you want to call it, and there's George Reeves for a moment. George Reeves is there, who was my very favorite Superman and superhero with a TV series, The Adventures of Superman. So I really like that movie a lot, and I mean I go way back. I mean, if you want to call Hercules a superhero, there was Steve Reeves in Hercules and Hercules Unchained, and those
Hey
were
Herc.
great
Hey
movies to me.
Herc.
Yeah, hey Herc.
So are you a DC guy over Marvel?
Yes, DC guy, but I do appreciate Marvel, but I was always a DC guy, and the rivalry really got going in the 60s, you know.
Sure.
So when I'd go to school, we'd always argue about who are the better superheroes.
Yeah. Which power would you want to have?
Oh, super strength, of course, I was a great friend of Doug Hepburn. I don't know if you remember him. He's from Vancouver. He was at one time the world's strongest man, and
Okay.
he used to bend railroad spikes in his hands in dimes and rip telephone books in half. In fact, one time at the Forum, when the Canucks were in the Western Hockey League, he was able to lift the whole team up on his back. Believe it or not. Yeah, yeah, you can go to the fish that one, find that story in the library, but it's a true story, and or Google it. It's probably on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was super strong. He showed me how to bend steel in my teeth, and I used that in my show.
Wow. What music and stuff were you growing up around?
Well, I was a huge fan of the Beatles, and I saw them on Ed Sullivan. My parents got me. My first instrument was an accordion, and I played the accordion polkas and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't think it was very cool. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw, yeah, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan in '64, and I just was overwhelmed. Of course, so many great musicians, saw the Beatles that night. And
Yeah,
millions
like
of people.
mind-blowing moment for anybody that was watching that, wanted to become a musician
That's correct.
or
Yes.
spurred them on to become a musician is probably better said.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. If you weren't a musician, you wanted to become one. You see all
Yeah,
the girls screaming, and
like just
there they
going
are.
crazy. Beatlemania was mental, right?
It was at its height there. I mean, actually, it just started in in America in '64, and then it just went wild. I saw it all happen. I was 11 years old, and I thought this is amazing. So I started playing guitar, and we had our own band, the Ticks. Uh, like a blood sucking tick, like a wood tick. I thought
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was a cool name, right? So anyhow, we had some pretty good songs, and I kept trying to get record deals, any way I could, believe it or not, back then, or try to get some radio play. There was a guy called Jack Webster. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
if you remember Jack Webster.
I
I
do, yeah.
mean, he was a talk show host. My mother loved Jack Webster. She'd have Jack Webster on all the time in the
We just
morning.
had a show called Simply Webster, wasn't it?
I think so. I
I think so.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the Jack Webster show. He's a Scottish guy, So anyhow, um, I even tried to get. I had my tape on. We recorded, and it was a song called "How Nice." I called up the show. I said, "Oh, I want to talk to Jack Webster." And anyhow, as soon as we started playing "How Nice," he hung up. Right. So it wasn't easy to get any kind of airplay in the early days, and
I don't know if
and
it's any easier today, John. So it's probably still pretty tricky, I think, if you talk to
yeah,
most fans. Yeah.
but yeah, so a lot of trial and tribulation trying to crack the music industry and the radio.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
We're talking about the Beatles. Did you ever get a chance to see them play live?
that's a strange thing. As much as I love the Beatles and I lived in England, you know, I went to Abbey Road and everything, but and I met so many celebrities in my life, but never any of the Beatles.
Hmm.
And I never saw them live. Just stuff on television and YouTube, etc.
Yeah.
But massive fan of the Beatles and their music, of
Yeah.
course.
Of course. I mean, how could you not be? So, what was your first concert that you went to then?
The very first concert actually was a band called Heart. I actually
Okay.
would bounce in Vancouver. Heart would come up here, and I don't know if you ever heard of Oil Can Harry's. There was a place called Oil Can Harry's, and I used to bounce there, and that's where all the hot bands would come and play. And I got to see Heart. They always would perform this Led Zeppelin set. And I thought, oh man, is that amazing? They did such a great job with that. And of course, the rest is history for them. They went on to,
Well, they're huge. Yeah.
record at Mushroom Studios and massive.
Yeah. Yeah. How about your first concert that you played? How old were you?
The first concert that I played, actually, I was like 18 years old that I played with the concept, because I can't really say when I was in the Ticks that they were concerts. We kind of, played for the family and,
Yeah.
played little, groups of people and that. But then actually my first big show where there's a big crowd out there was when I was 18, and then of course 19 had developed more with Mikl Body Rock and got to play the New Westminster High School was one of our first gigs, and then Commodore Ballroom, jumped over to Commodore Ballroom. Yeah, and then so we actually played Basitas one time because but it was a newer club back then.
Okay. And just to put it in perspective for people that live in Vancouver and how lucky we are to have the Commodore Ballroom. Like how many shows have you played in your life?
Oh,
Like it has to be thousands, right? And of the shows that you've played, where does the Commodore stack? Like is it top 10?
I did one show, the Commodore Ballroom. It's like yes, it was absolutely amazing. But anyhow, I put it in my top 10 category for sure. Easy. It's an amazing place, historical.
Sure, like
But
think about the bands that have played there on stage as you're playing and you're like, holy shit, like look at where I am.
yes, yes, some of the greatest. You know,
Yeah,
There's a lot of history. There's a lot of rock history around the Vancouver area. I mean,
big time.
even going over to like BTO, playing around the area as Brave Belt and going across the line, at the Breakers. BTO played down there. A lot of the
Point
biggest
Roberts there,
bands,
yeah.
Trooper, and we played there, and amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool. John, one of the reasons I'm talking with you today, your PR team reached out and they were like, "Hey, he's got a Victoria 2020 or 1925 sportswear line coming up." And I'm like, "That's crazy." So tell us about that and how did you get involved in this?
Well, actually, it goes way back to in 2008. I was bringing back the Vancouver Millionaires and
Yeah,
had trademarked. No one had the trademark for the Vancouver Millionaires, and my wife and I. Well, she's a tremendous Catherine, she's a tremendous artist and designer, and she was able to revise the Millionaires logo and all that. And we came out with a whole sportswear line. The Giants wore it on ice, and then eventually it got bigger and bigger to where we were able to sell it to the NHL and the Vancouver Canucks. So I was very much into recreating sweaters and jerseys and you know, for history too, to bring to a new young audience, along with music. Like I would, back in the days of the Vancouver Millionaires, when we were trying to develop it, I was working with Joe Keithley, and we'd do a Millionaires, Vancouver Millionaires show, so bringing them back from the dead because people had forgotten about them. So anyhow, it was so great to see the Canucks wearing for the Heritage Classic the Millionaires jerseys. So that being said, it went from there to even the Dallas Stars got a hold of us, and we put together all the sweaters. They have quite a history that Texas hockey, believe it or not, goes way back to the late 1800s. But anyhow, we developed a whole series of sweaters and so on and so forth. 15 years ago, we were working on the Victoria Cougars line. We have it trademarked as Victoria 1925. Seattle, we were doing the Seattle Metropolitans, the whole Pacific Coast Hockey Association, which of course had Vancouver in it, Victoria, Portland, Seattle, so I'm kind of,
you're knee deep.
I'm just a total geek altogether, comic books and
Great.
all this stuff that maybe even, I don't know how many people know about all this history. You got to read a lot of books on it. And there are various organizations where guys, all the, historical hockey geeks get together, and they talk about geeky stuff and old time hockey.
That's great. So you're obviously a huge hockey supporter. Like, what happened to the Vancouver Canucks this year? Like, they were supposed to be cup contenders.
Yes, they were supposed to be contenders, and it just kind of fell apart.
I mean, I guess it's just the Canuck luck too, though, right? Like Demko's out for a long period of time. Pedersen was out for a long period of time.
Yeah, and then the whole thing with Pedersen and JT Miller. It just was a lot of friction, and it just wasn't happening. So it was ups and downs. It looked like, oh man, they're gonna do something, and then next time they started losing again, and so it's back and
what's
forth.
Your take on the whole Besser thing? Like, do you think that they'll sign him? Like, that they'll go, like, we should probably keep this guy. Let's sign him for a little bit longer than we wanted to. Like, do you think that'll happen?
I believe it will, because he's an important guy to have on the team. Very,
Yeah. And how about Tocchet? Do you think that Coach Tocchet will be back?
I'm not sure about that. There's rumors, of course, of him going back to Philadelphia. I think there's a little friction between, Tocchet and management at the moment.
Yeah, I think so too. And who were they talking about? I read something on one of the local sports rags. Who's the guy that lost his eye, his vision? Remember the Canucks who was playing?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Manny Malhotra is
apparently
like in line to be like the next coach. Have you heard that as well?
I didn't hear that. That's a new one on me. But I remember meeting him one time, and I thought he was a really cool guy. He was there, he wore the Vancouver Millionaire jersey that when they did the Heritage Classic. He was involved there. Yeah,
he seems like a really nice guy. Hey,
very nice guy. So I don't know. Hey, anything can happen, right? I mean, it's a kind of business where it's high risk with your job.
Sure.
Whether you're a coach or player.
I mean, some of those coaches make millions, though. Like, there's pressure on them to win. Win, like, couldn't imagine what the talk is like with management at that point. It's like, holy shit, I got to go talk to, tail between the legs kind of thing, right?
Yeah, or you can sign a player and pay him big bucks, and then suddenly he doesn't perform.
Right. Are you thinking of somebody in particular with this
Yeah,
one?
I don't.
I think
There's
we could
three of them
probably
with
go
the
through the
same
list of
last
that one.
name.
Uh, and John,
But one in particular, yeah.
talk about the new single that you're doing with Al Harlow.
Yeah, Al Harlow to me is a great representation of the whole Vancouver scene with Prism.
Totally.
He's a great guy, and another fellow, Kevin Stewart Swain, was involved. He produces my records. I got a new record coming out that he produced coming out June 6th. But this particular record, we decided, hey, this is all part of what I do. Getting great artists to perform songs that pertain and can promote the sportswear. And we thought Victoria by the Kinks, and Al Harlow was a great Kinks fan, would be a great one to do for the Victoria line of clothing. So and it was fun, right? It was a fun type of thing, and he performs it very well.
So cool, man. Like, there's just no sign of slowing down for you. Like, do you want
No,
to
no, I'm just
relax,
starting.
take it easy? Like,
Uh, I mean, I do relax every once in a while, but when I relax, I've always got songs rolling on in my head. Right, you're writing songs, and I mean that's why this next one's a cover album. I'm actually doing a cover album, my first cover album of 41 albums in my life.
wow.
It's going to be out through Cleopatra Records. It's called Rock the Universe, and I got the Beatles on there. I'm redoing some Beatles songs, uh, Kinks, Deep Purple, and also Jerry Doucette. So we got the Canadian
Mama and
aspect
the
in there.
boys play some rock
The
and
rock and
roll.
roll, you got it,
Why
man.
is this
That
too
was
crazy? Yeah, nice.
that.
So
That song is
how do
so
you
great,
decide on
you know.
the cover songs, man? There's so many great songs to cover. Being the first
They're sort
record,
of
of
the
course, too.
soundtrack of my tours before we started really getting into original. I would tour through Canada and do the Ontario circuit, and we would play all these songs that are on this album. And Frank Soda, I don't know if you heard of Frank Soda.
I have, yeah.
I met him in Terrace one time, and we became really great friends. And I wanted him to join the band. We went over to Ontario and did that whole circuit, and just kept playing these songs. And so he's on the album along with Al Harlow and some more pals. But it's produced by Kevin Stewart Swain,
Mm.
who's a tremendous, just a tremendous producer. I think this is one of my best albums, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's great. John, you'd mentioned Joey Keithley, Joey Shithead from DOA. Did
Yes.
you guys ever play with Joey and the boys?
Oh yeah. We actually did a show at the Pacific Coliseum, and it was for the World Kickboxing Championship.
Oh, no
So
way. Okay.
we dubbed it as DOA versus Thor. And so we went, and we actually performed in a ring, and Joe and I were just kind of like, coming at each other,
Nice.
musically, not physically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's great, man. Joe, he's a great guy. I've known him for
He
a
is
while as well.
super.
My time at CFOX, he would come in every once in a while. He'd co-host like Punkorama with Marianne Carosi, and
Wow.
we just kind of hang out and like he'd just tell stories and like upon stories. The dude can talk. He's so fun and yeah, he's a great guy.
Yes, and well, you've launched a lot of uh, great bands, and premiered their new albums, and
Oh, for
amazing,
sure.
like Nickelback, and
Yeah,
tons of big acts.
yeah, yeah, big time. I feel pretty fortunate to have my time here in radio, but it's all podcasting these last 11 years though. It's just a wild west, like as a as a host, you can kind of do it on your own. You don't really need the big machine to help out.
It's the new thing that's going on, you know.
Yeah, 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 truly.
And, you know, I like the name too. You know, the
The
Toddcast
Toddcast.
podcast. That is great. You
Yeah,
know,
no doubt, right? All right, John, I'm going to wrap it up with what could be the easiest. It could be the toughest. Can you pick one career highlight, or is it just impossible?
one career highlight, like a performance or
Anything. Like, what is your ultimate career highlight?
that's a tough one.
Yeah.
However, I must say, one time we were invited to play Las Vegas, and before all the heavy rock bands had played Vegas. This goes back to about 1980. We went to play the Riviera and did a big show at the Riviera. Back in 1980 was and in the audience was like Robert Goulet and all these stars, and the place was packed, like 2,000 people, right? And a lot of them were show people too, who were, it was a celebration. It was called the Beaux Arts Ball Celebration, and we actually I didn't know how they were going to perceive us with our heavy rock and but they loved it, and we got 4 encores, even with
Back in the day
yeah,
when encores actually meant encores, like
but
today's
it was
music, like you don't just plan the encore. Like
yeah,
encores are supposed to be like, we want you back, come back out.
that's but it was like Robert Goulet standing up, applauding, and Rip Taylor, and
Wow.
it was a great moment for me. So I would say that's one of my greatest highlights. I mean, I have a lot more. I could go on and on, but
Oh, sure.
it's been
I,
it's been it's been a lot of fun the past 50 years. I must say.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well, it's been great to talk to you and get a little bit of your story. Where are you most active online, John? Like, where should people follow you?
Yeah, go to thorcentral.net.
Okay.
Yeah, thorcentral.net, or we got Thor the band page on Facebook. And there's also JON-MIKL Thor on Facebook as well. And hey, just Google it.
Yeah,
Google
yeah.
Thor the
Easy to
Rock
find.
Warrior or John MIKL Thor. Something will come up.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again for taking the time to jump on the Toddcast here in Vancouver. Are you in Vancouver as well, by the way?
Yeah, Vancouver. Go back and forth between Vancouver and Point Roberts.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I got some buddies in Point Roberts as well. Okay, John, we'll tag you when we're
yeah.
checking this stuff around online. Great to meet you
Thank you.
and have a great day. Bye.